Here's a video to walk you through a few different ways to deploy an access role in Ops Insights for an individual that oversees production for a specific office, branch at your company, region, so on and so forth. So we'll cover that or get to that in just a moment. But before we get to that point, the first thing we need to do is log in as a client admin user. And of course, the client admin user is the only user that can create and manage roles in Ops Insights. So I've done that here. I've logged in as a client admin user into one of our Resware accounts. So this video is going to be a Resware demo account. This video is going to be focused on Resware, but what we're doing here, the criteria filtering options are going to be a little bit different because they can vary from production system to production system. But the main takeaway is this is going to show you a few different ways of how to deploy an access role and lock it down so that an individual that oversees production for a specific region, office, branch, processing center, anything of that nature, will be able to access those reports only and not change your selections. And again, I've logged into our Resware demo account and I've taken to the dashboard. So to make these changes, we'll need to head over to the access roles section. I'm going to do that now. Click on access roles in the left-hand navigation bar. And when the page loads, we will see a listing of all of the enabled access roles that are in our account. And we are actually going to focus on an access role that we created in a previous video, previous training video. And that was called Operations Manager Demo. So in that video, I actually walked you through how to deploy an Operations Manager templated role. We walked you through how to make the correct selections so that the reports return the most accurate results for you when you're selecting your criteria filtering options. So they can be a little finicky for some reports. So be sure if you are or do not have an operations manager role in your account, be sure to go back and watch that video, refer to it, and follow those steps to deploy an access role or operations manager access role in your account. And you don't necessarily have to use the operations manager templated role. You can create a new role from scratch, or you can clone an existing role that is not the operations manager templated role. The things that we're going to cover here, the criteria filtering options selections, aren't dependent upon you creating or cloning an operations manager templated role. You can clone or create any role in your account and follow these same steps that I'm going to outline in this video to make sure that an individual that works for an office, processing center, branch, or region has the reporting that they need, whether that's revenue, SLA, action-based reports, does not matter. The steps here are going to be the same. I just kind of wanted to walk you through the use case of what we'll be demonstrating today. So what we're going to do is we're going to clone the Operations Manager demo role that we created in the previous video. And again, this video is available on our user documentation site, and go there and watch it. If you do have questions after watching it, please reach out to our support team, support@opsinsights.com. And we're just going to create an Operations Manager Office demo role here. Now, when you're creating it, you probably want to name it whatever its purpose is. In this case, it's an Operations Manager role. But for instance, you'll want to do Operations Manager whatever office name, whatever region, whatever branch that you're creating it for. And we're going to kind of go quickly through these steps because in the previous video, the Operations Manager demo video, that's a very solid video to go back and watch because I actually walk you through all of the steps, what to do and how to make your selections and describe everything that's going on. Don't want this video to be too long, so we're just going to kind of go through these steps quickly until we get to standard criteria. But one thing to note, if you are cloning an access role, be sure to look through all of the users in the account and remove any selections of users that do not need access to this new role. You can add more users here, of course, but just make sure that when you're cloning a role, You remove any users that don't need access to it and add users that will need to access this specific role. And since we're cloning the operations manager demo role, we will just go in and keep all of the same reports here. Obviously, the operations manager demo was focused for the entire company, and this specific one is going to be focused for a specific office at the company, not necessarily the entire company. And since that's the case, operations managers will need the same reports. So we're just going to keep things the same. You can, if you want, add or remove by toggling the switch, and of course show the assigned reports, or you can search for and find you can look through every single report in your account here, and you can add or remove any report that you want. And we're going to continue on until we get to the standard criteria step. So since we chose to clone this role, it did keep all of our previous selections. So we're going to inherit everything that we selected for the operations manager demo role. And again, that role was geared towards an operations manager that oversees production for the entire company, all offices. But what we're going to do here is we're going to create this for a specific office. And I'm going to show you a few ways to do that. The first way to do that is to use the ResWare Office criteria filtering option. So if your company uses multiple ResWare offices to segment your files, this is how you would do it. You would just go into ResWare Office, expand it, and then you would just find whatever office that you want to use to lock the results down to. This could be one or many here. We could, for instance, we have an office, like the Office TV show theme here. So we have Athlete Sports, Dunder Mifflin, Michael Scott Paper, and then Sabre. So for instance, Dunder Mifflin and Sabre are essentially the same company. One's maybe an older production and then a newer production, if you're familiar with how the Office or with the Office TV show. So for instance, if you wanted to do two here, you could do that. And it is important to note that we should, since we are creating this role for a specific region or office in the company, and the intention is for the assigned users to only be able to see files for that specific office or region or branch, then we want to make sure that they can't change our selections. And to do that, we just toggle the allow user to override selected value switch to no. And what happens when we do that is it applies a padlock when the users are viewing it on their dashboard, and they can't change your selections. So for instance, the users assigned to this, they could only see files for Dunder Mifflin and Sabre, and they couldn't change your selections and go in and see what Athlete Sports is doing or Michael Scott Paper Company is doing. They can only see the files that are assigned to that specific ResWare office. And then that's what we would do. We would just lock it in here just like that. So that's one option. If your company or your ResWare installation has multiple ResWare offices in it. Now, some of our clients operate using one ResWare office, and if that's the case, ResWare Office criteria filtering options probably not the best way to segment your files. Some of our clients do something where they assign a partner type to the file to delineate a specific processing branch or a specific closing office, processing center, anything along those lines. It just varies on how your company's broken up. Some of our clients have regional processing centers and satellite or several different closing offices, and so on and so forth. So it just kind of runs the gambit of how you are set up. The most common ways to segment files for a region, a processing center, an office, or a branch is to use the ResWare Office, which we demonstrated a moment ago, and to use a partner when it's assigned to the file. So I'll show you this, how to do the partner type as well if you assign a partner to delineate files for a specific office, branch, or anything along those lines. So we're going to select branch here, and then we're going to follow those same exact steps. We will not allow the user to change our selections. So they'll be locked down, and our selections here, they will not be able to override or change them. Now that we've looked for branch, we have a few different branches here. And again, if you're familiar with the Office TV show, these are based or themed on with those. So we have all of the different branches for Dunder Mifflin listed here. And we're going to go with Scranton. And we could do one or many here as well. So for instance, if we have a regional type of setup or a person that oversees production for several branches at your company, you can select many here. So we could do, for instance, we'll do Scranton and Stamford, and we'll do Utica. So that's an option as well. And then we can actually go down to the partner employee level. So for instance, if you have a specific individual that oversees production for one branch or a person that's assigned to the file as a closer or something like that, you can actually select that particular person. So if you wanted to make an access role for one closer only, a lot of our clients have attached a branch partner to the file, and then they select the name of the closer as the primary employee for that branch, so that they could see who's closing the file. And if you wanted to create access roles that are specific to that person, then you can make those selections here as well. So, here's an example. We'll do one for Michael Scott, and we'll click no, so they can't change it. And then that's that. So we can do it this way as well. So that's an example of how to lock down or segment files using the partner that's attached to the file. We previously showed you the Office. And then one other option that some of our clients will do is if they work out of one Reservoir Office, or they don't use, they're not really segmented by branches. They're more segmented by the lines of business that they offer. So we could potentially do something like you could select purchase. So for instance, you want to segment files for the purchase department only, and we could do that here as well. We don't necessarily recommend doing individual products because those can change over time. You can add more as you build out those lines of business. And each time you add a new product, or let's say you change the name of the product, you would have to go in and rename or make those selections to account for that renaming, or you'd have to go in and update the criteria filtering options to capture those new products for those existing lines of business. So if you do go this route, we highly recommend using transaction type only, because the overall lines of business that you're going to offer are probably not going to change. You're going to do a handful of different offerings, and then the products inside of them may change over time. So that's why it's recommended to just select transaction type only here. So those are 3 different options or ways to segment files for individuals that either work out of one office, or they handle only a segmented slice of files at your company. So we'll remove our selections. In our particular use case, we're just going to go with an office here, Reservoir Office, to make things simple. And we will just go with Sabre International as our use case. Is what we're going to do. And we'll just go in and clear out all of these. Let's see, we'll lock that in. Actually, let's update and remove, but we do need to make sure that they can override these. So we'll lock in that. So even if we had nothing selected and the can override switch was set to no, they wouldn't be able to change those. So for instance, now this will only show Sabre files, but they can go in and look at or segment the data to see production for like a real estate agent, selling agent, listing agent, things of that nature. So we've made our selections. We're going to complete the standard criteria step now. And then we are just going to kind of go quickly through the common sets. If you are unfamiliar what common sets are, please watch the Operations Manager demo training video that will go in depth about and explain common sets and what to select and how to select and that sort of thing. Again, since we cloned that role, all of our previous selections will be made or are there, and the only thing that should change is that the Resware office should be Sabre International for the standard criterias only. If it's report specific, then we need to make sure that we select Sabre for any Resware office criteria filtering option. And again, if you have questions about that or this process, watch that video, of course, and then reach out to our support team, support@opsinsights.com. So we're just going to kind of fly through here, just make sure that Sabre is there. All of our previous selections, since we're cloning, should be there as well. So this is a very fast process once you kind of have your bearings and your feet under you, so to speak. So for instance, this is doing it for the Sabre International Resware office, but you wanted to go in and do one for the Michael Scott Paper Company or Dunder Mifflin or anything along those lines. This is the exact same process. So it's super fast when you're cloning something, because all of your selections are made. It's just recommended to kind of flush out any, go through and create a role, your first role, and then once you're ready to move forward with it, cloning it is very easy. So you can kind of figure out your selections and make sure everything works well for you. All right, good deal. So these are all of our selections, and we're going to complete the criteria lock-in step now. And our role is now created. So those are different ways to segment files or create an access role that segments files for an individual at your company that oversees production for a Resware office, a specific regional partner, or someone that oversees production for a specific line of business at your company. If you have any questions about role creation strategy or what to do or how to do it or what's the best way to set up your account, please feel free to reach out to our support team, support@opsinsights.com. Thanks. We look forward to hearing from you.